back at Mount Sinai, what did God do? Right? God promised the people they would hear his voice. He came down onto the mountain, right? It says Yahweh actually descended, right? This he came down, was at the top of the mountain in the storm theophany. He spoke the words of the Decalogue. And then the people were like, no, we're going to die. So then he says, Moses, come up. And God writes the Decalogue on tablets with it says, right, it explicitly says in the text, with the finger of God. So, the word of Yahweh is both spoken and written. The word of Yahweh is both spoken and written. It is the law and the prophets. So the law, well, we start with prophets, right? Moses is called a prophet. He speaks the words of God. So Yahweh starts by speaking. Special revelation, right? Speaking. Words that he wants said to the people. Sometimes they get written down. What gets written down, that becomes the law. Law and the prophets. This is God, special revelation, law and the prophets. So, you know how back at the beginning of the class I told you or beginning of the course I told you, right, Jesus says the law, the prophets, and the Psalms? Well, sometimes in rabbinic literature or even in the New Testament, it's not law and prophets and the Psalms. The whole Old Testament is just called law and the prophets. It's like in New Testament speak, it's like the Bible. What is the Bible? The law and the prophets. It's the spoken and the written word of Yahweh. Special revelation. New Testament says God's special revelation consists of the Son and the Scriptures. One is spoken, one is written. Right? Jesus is the Word of God. When God speaks to us, he says Jesus, so to speak. When God writes to us, he writes the Bible. So the reason why I bring this is such a big point, remember, I'm trying to reorient your thinking a little bit as this course goes on. I'm trying to reorient your thinking to think about the world and life as an Old Testament is, right, as an ancient Israelite would think about it. So an ancient Israelite would think about, right, the word of Yahweh is like communication from God to us. It occurs primarily in spoken form, and then sometimes it gets written down. Right? Spoken through the word of a prophet, and then sometimes it gets written down. When it gets written down, it makes this, right? It makes this binary, this pair, right? Best buddies, law and prophets. Spoken word, written word. Prophets write down stuff that is inspired. It gets absorbed into this. Right? Go back here, word of Yahweh. When the prophets write things down, it becomes part of the book, which is law. So does this make sense? Let me say it again. Right? In Old Testament speak, law and the prophets it's like a shorthand way of saying the spoken and written word of God. And then those terms become applied to the book itself. Right? The first section becomes the law, and the second section becomes called the prophets. But the whole thing, like law and prophets, it's a way, right? It's like an idiomatic way of referring to how God communicates, the word of Yahweh.